and Alan. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So, do you want to give us kind of like just a quick background on you and the company that you're with and your role there?
Well, my name is Allan. I'm the chief operating officer of a electrical contracting firm in the Northeast. We service retail, residential, and commercial customers in a variety of applications and markets. I've been doing that for about 10 years. Before that, I was a senior vice president of sales and marketing for some high technology companies. So I bring a broad perspective of approaches in terms of service delivery, marketing, operations, finance, etc. But there's still plenty to learn.
Yeah, of course. And so, how long have you been with Ungerman?
Probably closer to 15 years.
Okay. Okay. And the company itself is pretty old. I forget exactly how old.
We're over 50 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. You've been around for a while.
Seems like just like yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, and so your background, I guess, like is more in the tech and marketing.
Um, I've worked for large gorillas and some small startups and turnarounds, so my roles have varied. I've had my fingers in many pieces of the pie. But sales and marketing partnerships are core to what I've been doing. But in addition, so for example, my last job was senior vice president of operations for a company called Plug Power, which created a alternative energy generator, hydrogen fuel cell. So I got involved in service delivery as well.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds interesting. It was like an alternative fuel.
So it's hydrogen is the fuel source.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
interesting.
there's many applications for it in terms of backup power. Um, the promise is that it doesn't pollute. It uses hydrogen, and the output is water and oxygen.
Yeah, okay. Is it like, I mean, is that like efficient?
Excuse me.
And efficient isn't like does it produce like I mean like does it produce a lot of power or
You can you can aggregate modules. They're like power packs, essentially. So the original application was backup power for cell towers,
okay.
and they came in 5 kilowatts per brick, if you will. And then they moved from those applications into for, forklifts, replacing the power pack that was usually either batteries or propane with fuel cells.
Yeah, so
So there's
so do the
a lot of implications of the applicability. I mean, even though the company's been around for a while, it's still sort of in startup mode.
yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry, I was just
And but
kind of got just
they have a large installed base, but they have yet to make a profit.
sure. Yeah, well, but I mean, it seems like you could. I guess maybe it just depends on kind of like the marketing of that, but it seems like yeah, the pretty wide range of applications seems like it'd be as long as you get the marketing right. Like,
Well, you also have to. I mean, when you're dealing with some new application, you have to sort of organize the supply chain. And in the case of, I mean, it's not just a question of function; it's a question of permitting and getting people familiar, like the fire chiefs, familiar with what's the
mm,
consequence of having hydrogen on a site. So there are a lot of
sure,
different elements. Plus,
yeah, that
there's
makes
the
sense.
vision of the Hindenburg blowing up with hydrogen. So you have to
Yeah,
get over
right, right.
that.
Yeah, there's some negative connotation for sure. That makes
Right. I
sense.
mean, as it turns out, it is fairly safe, much safer than the traditional ways that you would provide power to these applications. But I think because it's such a ubiquitous application and it's in sort of startup mode, I mean, the question is, what battles do you want to focus on?
Right, right.
So
Yeah,
we've taken the approach of which is the one that has the best return on investment.
sure. Yeah, of
So
course.
rather than treat it as a commodity, treat it as, hey, so companies that have the product are companies like Amazon, Walmart, and big warehouses where the inventory turns become a big financial stake in what applications they use. So if we can show them how to improve inventory turns, the return on investment is pretty substantial.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. It's exciting. I mean, I don't know that there's fuel is a big topic, so I don't know. I got kind of it's interesting, just like the different avenues. I mean, there's not just like, fuel and coal, like there's alternatives. It seems like the electrical industry is kind of an interesting one to be in right now, just because um like EVs and smart homes and smart panels and like so I guess like kind of taking it back to Ungerman. Do you guys see a lot of those? Is that like, a large amount percentage of kind of like the work is sort of like, EV kind of things and smart homes and, LED lights
So
and,
we see that. I mean, there are some customers that request it, but a lot of people aren't familiar with what the technologies are and what's the other than the sex appeal, if you will. I mean, what's the value? So you're right. So there's more diagnostics built into the applications right now in the home and residence, control, security, function, to be able to remotely monitor. All those things have significance. The question is, how do you sort through all the mil- millions of possibilities to get
right,
the customer excited and for us to have the skill sets necessary to deliver on the promise of those technologies?
right. Yeah. So there's not a whole lot of like just the regular consumer homeowner, like there's not a whole lot of demand yet, maybe for those things.
Well, there's it's like early adoption. So if I look at applications, smart thermostats, that's sort of a
Yeah.
no-brainer.
Right.
Um, and then they become more credible when companies like Google buy the companies that like Nest, who produced the first generation of this, or at least commercially, and Viam. When Google gets involved, then that gives a certain level of credibility and comfort. Then the utility companies provide incentives because with smart thermostats, as an example, you can use less energy, um, which the utility companies are interested in.
Hmm. Yeah.
And you can look at almost any application. Again, it's almost similar to the plug power scenario. Lots of possibilities. Where do you focus marketing? Where do you develop your skill sets in areas where customers would be not just excited, but are willing to invest the money to realize the benefits of these technologies?
Right. Yeah. And I guess like same with solar. I mean, I know that there have been some, programs, I think, depending on the state, that there's kind of like rebates or financial incentive to install solar panels. Do you see that there?
Yeah, in the Northeast. There's utility companies that incent you to move into certain technologies. So certainly, uh, you see the interest in solar, and that's been for a while. Electric vehicle charging station infrastructure, that's another thing. There's a movement towards from gas to electric, with the promise of alternative energy being able to fill that gap. So each of those applications has an incentive wrapped in through either the utility, or in the case of New York State, for example, there's an organization called NYSERDA, which is a government entity that does research and incentives on a variety of approaches that will provide benefit to the customer, but also reduce our reliance on fossil fuels.
Yeah. Right. And I forget the service area that you guys cover. Do you do it in New York City?
No. So So each market is different. New York State is sort of peculiar. Most states, if you have a license, you can practice throughout the state. So Vermont, Massachusetts. But in New York, each municipality has its own ways of doing things. So New York City has its own licensing requirements.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah.
So we focus primarily around the capital region, which is Albany, and within like a 50-mile radius of that. So sometimes we're brought into Massachusetts, sometimes we're brought into Vermont, but depending on what the problem is we're trying to address will determine whether our credentials are valid in that region.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. That makes sense. And the company is family owned. It's been family owned, right? And it still is family owned.
Yeah, so we're working on the third generation.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And so how
Trying to find talent is difficult, so we have to create our own.
yeah, right. That's definitely a question I want to ask about. Um, it's hiring is finding reliable right techs or electricians is I'm sure just like most industries right now is
Yes, I mean
difficult.
it's
So
a issue for all trades,
for
trying to
sure, for
find
sure.
the next generation of talent.
Right,
So you got to be
right.
creative, come up. So we form partnerships with universities, high schools.
Okay. Yeah.
We have a partnership with Albany around looking at inner city youth and getting them exposed to the trades. And the
Nice.
ones that are motivated, we may offer jobs to those people. So it's and the shortage is going to get worse
Yeah.
as
Yeah. I
I
think you're
mean,
right.
particularly if you start looking at the infrastructure changes that are going to likely happen within the next 5 years or so. I
Yeah.
mean, you
Would you?
hear the
Yeah.
talk right now. I mean, it's interesting. We're sort of right in the middle of, as the country evolves, we're talking about offshoring, bringing factories in to do
Right.
manufacturing. In order for that to occur, you need more tradespeople
Right.
to build that infrastructure.
Yeah.
And it's hard, even
Totally.
without that, it's hard enough to source people. So you have to come up with creative ideas and to make it happen. And sometimes we do something called cooperation, where we'll
Okay.
cooperate with one of our competitors because either of us don't have the capacity or skill sets. But if we bring it together, we can offer a complete solution, be the one throat to choke, so to speak, so the customer
Yeah.
doesn't have to deal with multiple vendors. So you have to
Interesting.
be creative.
Yeah. And so I mean, how long have you got kind of implemented that strategy? And like, I mean, how many different kind of competitors do you kind of team up with?
Not many.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because you probably
so I
you don't
mean,
want to put your name on something, right?
well, it's not just that. I mean, again, it depends on the sophistication of the partner. So we don't necessarily. So we have certain companies that are like ourselves that we sort of compare notes. Form sort of like a benchmark group, if you will, where we can compare. Do we compete against each other sometimes? But we can talk, and new opportunities come in, and we can introduce those opportunities if it makes sense and talk about them. Then there are
Yeah.
companies that are so we're not a big contractor, but we have relationships with some very big contractors that we've become friendly with. And if an opportunity that we think, so we'll give those leads that are not necessarily in our wheelhouse to them, and then they'll give us leads when the job is too insignificant for them to get involved. And
Okay.
then there are times where we'll understand about an opportunity and we'll ask them if they want to collaborate, so they'll own a piece of the project. So it really depends on what we're trying to do as to what our relationships are. We
Right.
form we
Okay.
form mo- we form more relationships with tangential partners. So if you're going to put a generator in, for example, you not only have to do the electrical work, but you have to do the gas plumbing, for example. So
Mm-hmm.
we can go to a customer and say, you can handle all the piece parts, or we can form relationships with companies that complete the solution, but bring them all together under one umbrella so that it's easier for the customer to implement, to manage, and so on and so forth. So almost every trade requires electricity at some point. So if you're at HVAC people and you're putting in a new RTU somewhere, someone's got to bring power up to that area.
Right.
So they could ask the customer to be their own GC, or we can form sort of a collaboration around a specific opportunity where everyone wins.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I guess just for context too, how large of a company is it? I mean, like how many do you call them electricians? Do you text? I mean, like what is the size of the team?
So it varies. You know, the size of our business is about $2 million a year.
Okay.
So we have on staff about 5 or 6 electricians, and then we have back office staff that handles everything from billing to supply chain issues, strategy, marketing, and things of that sort.
Right. Yeah. So do you have an in-house marketing team, or at least person?
I mean, to be candid, because there's a fine line between the capacity we have to deliver service and creating too much demand.
Yeah.
It's sort of a tricky,
Sure.
you know, it's not like we have this infinite bench.
Right.
And then if we were very sophisticated with our marketing, all of a sudden we've invested in creating frustrations to our customers as opposed to creating endearing relationships.
Yeah. Sure.
So
Makes sense.
so we're, you know, we spend probably most of our marketing spend in 2 areas. One is in our website and social marketing. But most of our work is also focused on those partnerships I discussed.
Yeah.
So to deal with other HVAC vendors to say, hey, we can become part of your solution. We can work together, share leads, bring expertise together, create value that working together would have that working individually wouldn't have, make a competitive differentiation. So we have, and then, you know, there are windows of opportunity. So, for example, in New York, which I know in other areas as well, the utility companies provided financial incentives to move from fluorescent technology to LED technology.
Yeah.
So those windows of opportunity, while the money's there, essentially the utility company is paying for the project. So you want to go to the right suspect. And this is sort of one-to-one kind of marketing. The right suspects that would appreciate that and is worth our time so that we could target market, whether it's warehouses, office buildings, things of this sort, where we have more control over the stimulation of demand and our ability to deliver, since it's a lot of reusable components.
Totally. Yeah. Something I'm kind of curious about. Something I read on the website that stood out was there's no job too small or too big, and you kind of talked about how you do residential and commercial. Um, where do you find that you do more work? Is it more commercial or more residential, or is it kind of evenly split?
So that's a constant debate. Um, so we do more residential work, but the
Okay.
average value per job is bigger for the commercial work.
Right. Yeah. Do you have like an average? I mean, do you know what those numbers are? Just like for reference,
No,
like in general.
I mean
No.
we have an idea. So, for example, we're going to replace an electrical service, go from let's say 100 amp to 200 amp. We have an idea of roughly what that would cost because we're also benchmarking our prices to the competition. Where do we want to sit in the ecosystem? Do we want to be the high price provider, and with that comes, you know, greater value, hopefully? Do we want to be in the mid road? Do we want to be a low cost provider? And there's no right or wrong answer. It's a question of, you have to think about that because then it determines how you're going to invest in that market and what
Totally.
kind of efficiencies do you need to do so you can actually make money.
Right. Yeah. Do you guys run ads at all? I mean, is that part of the strategy ever?
We have tried and experimented with them and will continue to experiment, but this is sort of an impulse kind of buy. I mean, we have existing customers that obviously will call us again and again, but this isn't something where you're walking around and saying, like buying a car. I'm going to buy a car, and you're asking people questions. You sort of like all of a sudden the lights in your house go out, and usually it's the first time you're thinking about what do I do when my lights go out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that
again,
makes sense.
we only have 6 people, so I mean, stimulating demand is actually easier than fulfilling the requirements for the job. So we sort of work a fine line between create demand creation and jobs in the pipeline.
Right. Yeah. Right. And finding that balance. And so is the goal, like the 10-year, even 5-year goal, like is it to expand the team, take on more jobs, or is it to kind of like, find that kind of balance and just kind of maintain, into the future?
So I that's a very good question. I mean, obviously you need to have a strategic plan to decide what are you trying to accomplish and what time frames. I would say we're probably not as, I mean, I came from companies which had a lot more detailed planning and financial projections and things of this sort. This is a family business. The question is, on a given, as we see the trends in our pipeline, what do we need to do? What are the windows of opportunity? How aggressively do we want to exploit those windows of opportunity? So, do we have a 5-year plan? We probably should, but we don't.
Okay.
We're also right now we're trying to transition to the next generation of Ungerman Electric. So it started with Susan Ungerman's father, who passed the business on to Susan, and now Susan has her 2 kids, 2 of her 4 kids involved in the business. So
Cool.
are they interested
Yeah.
in being in the business? That's important. You know, do we, and if they're not, what are we going to do in terms of succession planning? Do we want to sell the business? I mean, it turns out we
I
have
see. Yeah.
one of the sons that are interested in is playing sort of a foreman role. So he gets a
Okay.
better understanding of what he's getting himself into.
Yeah. Yeah. That's smart. So, kind of bring them through the ladder.
Yeah. So that's been an adventure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. So yeah, it sounds like there's kind of a, um, maybe the lack of a 5-year plan is more about there's a big kind of decision to make soon. It sounds like everyone kind of probably knows that it's like um there could be a big transition or yeah, kind of a continuation, but it's going to kind of depend on, it sounds like, the next generation.
Yeah.
And then so I guess you've been there for 15 years, you said?
Well, to be honest, I've been there so long I don't even remember. It's.
Yeah.
I mean, I was
Yeah.
sort of retired,
Okay.
and then I got
You
pulled
you'd
into it. So
already
what happened? I
retired.
mean, hmm?
You had already
How,
retired.
sort of. I mean, I had finished the Plug Power gig, and I was wondering what my next game would be. So when they make the movie, the story will be about. I started volunteering at Habitat for Humanity, where I met Herm Ungerman, the founder of the company, and through him, I met his daughter, which turns out I got married to just
Oh.
recently, but
Yeah,
that's
congratulations.
that's its own podcast.
Yeah. For sure.
So,
So
at
so
first
it's a
I was
husband
doing
and
consulting,
it's a it's
providing
a
her
husband and
advice and
wife team then.
counsel. Hmm?
Sorry, but it's a husband and wife team then.
Well, sometimes
Yeah.
it's her business. I provide. I'm sort of the maestro. I bring together the different people in the organization to share ideas and to provide as much
Okay.
structure as the organization can handle.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, it definitely feels like a family run business though. I like that.
Yeah. but part of the evolution of the company is what is does the do the who's interested in continuing to manage the business, and if not, what's our succession plan, which we're
Totally.
going through right now, that phase.
Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of exciting, in and of itself. I mean, I feel like either one is kind of can definitely be exciting. An exit is not a bad thing, and if someone is, yeah, if one of the kids is inspired to take it on, that's obviously exciting too. So I feel like both of those are good options. So
Yeah. I mean, the only difference between a family-owned business and not a family-owned business is that a family-owned business is 24/7. You can't run away from it. It's there at
yeah,
lunch and dinner, the
true,
weekends,
right, yeah, definitely true.
particularly when you're working in the business with your significant other.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Yeah, it's definitely different than most like office kind of vibes. It just feels like, yeah, like it's the same crew that you're going to work with is the same crew you're having dinner with at night. Yeah, right. Um, so in those 15 years that you've been there, or plus, kind of for lost count.
No, it's probably
Um,
more like 12. I'm trying to think, more like 12 years. Well, whatever it is,
okay,
it's bigger than a bread box.
yeah, right. Yeah, like I guess like what has been have you seen like maybe there was one kind of was there ever like a big turning point or like where you guys were heading and versus like or like maybe a big challenge that was overcome over your time there, like specifically?
Well, there's no shortage of drama in a business like a contracting business. COVID had a big shock to the business.
Yeah,
I mean, even though we were considered essential services, if
right,
somebody got sick, we had to shut the whole company down
right.
for several weeks.
Yep.
So
Yeah, so
those
do
kind
you,
of
do you
things.
guys you guys did have to close down for a few times during that?
Yep, we
Yeah.
did. So it's
Yeah, that
that,
was
feast or famine, all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden you finish a big job and you don't have the pipeline.
right. Yeah,
So,
has there been like obviously, yeah, COVID was huge. Do you feel like I'm curious just like cuz over over a decade it's like does it look different than it was, How does compared to where you when you started there, kind of like
so I
versus
think we're
where it's
more
at now?
disciplined.
Mhm.
We focus on standard operating procedure. How do you create
Mhm.
reproducibility so you improve efficiency, quality,
Yeah.
economics? So, and we've implemented a system that essentially encapsulates all that knowledge so that it could be easily distributed to the members of the team. So how we look
Nice.
at a client from capturing information to proposal to organizational readiness to follow through and then to take lessons learned and to insert them back into the process. I think there's far
Right.
more sophistication in that part of the work than we did when I first got involved with the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we
That's
first
good.
got involved with the company, it was sort of like the phone would ring and then we would decide what to do, as opposed to saying, we should have some opinion as to what we would like to do. So if we're going to change an electrical service, there are things that have to occur, certain dance steps. And if we follow those dance steps, which are documented,
Yeah.
then we would be saving a lot of time and money, as opposed to treating each one as a unique opportunity, and we have to scratch our heads and figure out, okay, what do we need? Well, we know that an electrical service, the components may vary, but you still need to have this, this, this. and and we need to capture that information. Sometimes we do that better now. Sometimes we can still improve.
Sure.
There's
Yeah,
a
and
lot of paperwork administration.
yeah, right. And I know that that probably, the kind of like the permitting and all that kind of, the state requirements are going to vary, right? State by state. So I'm sure that is a little
Right.
different, but is uh is New York, I guess not New York City, but the rest of New York is like, does every city kind of have its own like process, or is it basically just New York City and then the rest of the state that's kind of
Um, so some municipalities don't have permitting, but they require an inspection.
okay. Well, is there any like specific projects that have been, kind of like highlights, maybe like even for like this year, past year, that have been like, oh, okay, like this is a really cool project that you guys were proud of specifically?
So electric vehicle charging stations is interesting. So early
Yeah.
on, when there weren't that many electric vehicles and there weren't that many people talking about it, we sort of made a bet on that was to become more ubiquitous. And then we forged partnerships with companies that were involved, from general contractors to utility companies to manufacturers, to see what they
Mm-hmm.
were thinking about. And we ended up doing a lot of early adoption work in the Albany area. So that started with level 2 charging stations. Those are the ones that take probably 8 to 10 hours to charge a car. Now we're working
Okay.
on level 3, which you can charge a car in less than an hour. But the amount of power that's necessary to consume is significant. And usually there's not enough in the physical location. So you have to work with the utility company to build new transformers and distribution systems so they can handle that. So we've done a
Right.
few of those, like some Tesla supercharging stations. You'll see them usually
Yeah.
at some of the malls. There'll be like 15 or
Oh,
20. So they probably consume more power than the actual mall itself.
right.
So
Wow.
those are things that, it wasn't like there was a guidebook that told us what to do. We had to sort of scratch our heads and figure it out together.
Yeah.
And we built a few of them. And right now that there's more ubiquitous activity, we see more and more of that work. So
Right.
those are things that went from no knowledge, no understanding of the supply chain and costs to which to an area where it's a substantial part of our business.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That is cool. The EV charging stations, and it seems like there's probably just plans for more and more of those, right?
Yeah, right now, the level 2, which is where the first and second generation of charging stations, you couldn't really take a car and go from one end of the country to the other without some significant planning. But with the level 3, which are expensive, but now they're being put in throughway gas stations and things of that sort, now you have that feasibility. And when those barriers become less, people are going to buy more and more of that infrastructure. Be more and more of those kind of cars. I think the other thing that we're sort of proud of, in all the businesses I've been involved in, forming partnerships has been an important part. So we form partnerships with other service providers. I talked a little bit about it earlier in the conversation, but so for example, Walmart doesn't form relationships with all the local electrical contractors or any of the other trades. They form relationships with facility management companies. So we aggressively identify those facility management companies and said we're willing to participate. Sometimes they had providers, sometimes they needed providers. So I would say a substantial part of our business in the commercial space is brought to us by these facility management companies. So
Do
those
you
relationships are. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
like is that going to be any names that would sound familiar to anyone, or is that those are like these facility management you said companies? Like what would be an
Facility
example of that?
management.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're not necessarily household names. In the residential space, there might be more recognition because they're advertising to the consumer. So
Hmm.
these home warranty companies,
Okay.
if if you watch TV, you'll see that they're selling you that for a certain amount of money per month, they'll be responsible end to end for any part of the infrastructure, depending on how much you sign up for. Well, they need
Yeah. Okay.
service providers.
Right. Right.
Lowe's, for example, or Home Depot, you can buy the material, but you can also have them, you can entrust them to install the stuff. Well, they don't do it themselves. They have relationships with
Right.
other third parties like us. So you
Yep.
have to decide which
Yeah.
ones to work on because they all have their unique strengths and weaknesses.
Sure.
A lot of
Yeah.
paperwork has to be involved.
Yeah.
Their cost structures are different. Their go-to-market models are different. So you have to decide which battle you want to fight. But that's important to figure out who you are. Where do you fit in into the strata of different electrical contractors or HVAC contractors or plumbing contractors? So in the beginning, we would sample a variety of different kinds of facility management, but over time, we figured out which ones are worth the investment. So the service providers that focus specifically on the retail space, they tend to be
Hmm.
focus more on cost, whereas some of the commercial space, they're more interested in the value,
Interesting.
responsiveness, availability,
Yeah.
expertise.
Yeah. Do you ever have even just like contractors or other kind of partners that you don't work with and that you're like, we don't really do want to put our name with this person or company?
Well, I can prepare something for the next go around, but I'm saying what may not be right for us could be perfect for someone else. So someone who's starting out and they're trying to build a pipeline and their overhead is low, those retail jobs could be like a godsend.
Right.
But if your cost to put a technician out on the field is a certain amount and you can't, and the administration that's required is costly, it's not something you may want to do continuously.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And so for you guys, other than, if you just like don't have enough people, to like to get a job done, is there any other reason why you would not take on a job?
Expertise.
Okay. So maybe there's something that
So
you
for
guys are just not equipped for.
yeah, I mean, we're not interested. I mean, even though we say no job is too big or too small, I mean, there are jobs that are just too big.
Hmm. Sure.
And the people who are coming to our site aren't necessarily asking us to build a hospital.
Right.
There are
Yeah.
companies that do that. We're not
Right.
we're not we're not that company. And right from the get go, we have to sort of triage the opportunities to come in and very respectfully say, no, this is not in our wheelhouse. By the way, though, you may want to contact Rosen down the block. That's what they do.
Right. You would know who to push them to.
Right. And then Rosen will get your phone calls, which aren't in their wheelhouse because they're too small. And they'll say, hey, we don't really do this work, but you should call Ungerman Electric because that's the sweet spot of their business. That's where
Yeah.
the
Right.
cooperation comes in.
And do you guys have because for acquiring new customers, new jobs, do you guys have numbers on like kind of like that what that referral network partnership kind of what that gets you versus the just like the other and any other channel?
Um, I don't. I have sort of a qualitative, not a quantitative feel for it.
Yeah.
In the commercial space, I would say probably 30 or 40% of our business comes from those kind of relationships.
Yeah. So pretty substantial.
Yeah. And we have, and there's no, I mean, the cost of marketing is zero is because we're a captive
Right.
agent of the facility management company. The cost is in developing those relationships.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and the time. I mean, I'm sure that there's probably been some that have come and go because you guys have been in business for so long. So, been established that long obviously helps too. Kind of, it seems like referral networks just kind of grow over time naturally. So the longer that you're in business, the more referrals you're going to have.
Well, just like in our sector, there's all degrees of sophistication. So are they in the service provider facility management space. There's some of them that are precision focused, and some of them are sort of feeling their way as they go. So some of them are boutique vendors, some of them are national vendors, and it's not really a one size fits all world.
Right. Yeah, and so I'm kind of curious about just sort of market trends and also just like technology. So, because I mean, especially because that is your background. I mean, where do you kind of see? I guess like this is more of like a big picture kind of thing about electrical. Like, where do you see? What are kind of like the trends that you see the kind of market moving towards, and where is it going?
So I mean, there's more and more interest in smart technology,
Hmm.
and some of that is like cloud based. We work with a company called well that that insurance companies pay to have installed. They measure arcs in the circuits. And it turns out arcs cause a significant amount of fires in homes, but they put a monitor in or able to sense those arcs. And so I think we're going to see more and more of that kind of stuff to be able to control, to have the precision to control things down to a device level, whether it's an outlet, a light, security,
Wow.
camera. We see more and more of that. The move towards electrification. National Grid has a program which we're a partner with that rather than buy a gas powered um, dryer, they're encouraging you to go using a heat pump or some renewable fuel source,
Right.
and they'll pay for a significant percentage of the implementation.
Yeah. And
So I
do you
think
think
we'll
that's just
see a
gonna? Yeah. You don't think that's gonna slow down? Do you think it's gonna keep continue going, or do you think it's gonna like even pick up pace?
well. I think it'll go on. Some of it's obviously governed and gated by politics.
True. Yeah.
So, the drill baby drill mentality versus conservation. I mean, the issue is some of it is forward thinking.
Right.
I mean, let's assume that alternative energy was pragmatic and should be implemented to change out everything that was gas or gas fed. It would take a lot of time and a lot of money. So and the incentives from utility companies may continue or may abate depending on, again, the politics that's involved.
Yeah, that's true. Which can change really quickly. I mean, I know that it seems like this the just the sentiment of everyday people is more, like I'm in Europe right now, and it just seems like Americans, Europeans, I think just kind of everywhere is kind of concerned about that. And the more that the people are, the more that I think it'll be reflected in the governments, but and policy. But yeah, it's kind of a hard thing to rely on, I guess. I mean that those things can change, and then then things change. So, but it does seem like at least, yeah, it's hard to imagine that that would slow down right now. So
Well, we'll have to check this program here a year from now and see
yeah,
how our forecast ended up.
exactly. Yeah, that'll be fun. Um, as yeah, obviously there's so many apps and technology advances, and so does software and things like this. Like we're on Riverside. Um, has there been any just like software or apps that you've just like technology on that end that you've added to the business that has been beneficial or helpful?
Well, we have a platform that deals with CRM, project management, finance, as well as an
Okay.
action list, which I think is incredibly important.
Yeah. Is it is
The
it like
thing
a
that we're
popular
trying to
one?
figure out, excuse me,
Is it a
is it a
popular one?
popular
I mean, is
one?
it yeah? Is it Service Titan or
So
is it
the
something else?
platform we use is a platform called Kickserve. That's the foundation.
Okay.
It wraps itself around QuickBooks.
Okay.
And then there is a series of other applications that customer satisfaction ratings. Every
Hmm.
one of our customers gets either a call or a text message from a company called Customer Lobby to ask to measure their satisfaction with the service that we've provided.
Nice.
And then those
Yeah.
things,
That's
if the customer wants, gets published either on our website or on Google.
okay. Yeah. That's super valuable. I know that
So
Google
I
cares
mean,
about
those
those
the good, the
reviews.
bad, and the ugly get put on there. So you
Right.
might have
Yeah. That's
a
true.
customer that no matter what you did, they would never be happy because their marriage has failed and or whatever they're tired of eating beans. They
Right.
take it out on us,
Yeah.
and there are times where we have to learn also that sometimes we took our eye off the ball, and this is a good opportunity to formally make sure we understand how each transaction has occurred.
Sure. Yeah. It's
The
true.
technology
It's true.
we're trying to get our hands around is AI.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you had any experience or dabbled with that at all? What has been kind of like the things you've looked at in that realm?
I mean, right now, other than content, which we haven't figured out the sweet spot, I'm we're still researching.
Yeah. And yeah, there's so much to research right now because I feel like you get done researching, okay, like here's the latest thing, and then tomorrow there's just like, oh, this new bot came out, and this new app, and it's like, okay, now I'm, yeah, I feel like it right now. It just seems like it's totally overwhelming. I feel like the the things that you can do with AI and just like different. There's so many bots, and different apps. Like on Riverside, like this platform. I'm gonna cut up like smaller social media little clips, but it's mostly gonna be the AI. I mean, I might tweak it around a little bit, but they actually have an AI that's just gonna cut. It's gonna create the highlights. It transcribes every word that we are, that we're saying, and you can actually edit based on the words. So I don't even have to look
Right.
at the video. I could just look at the words and grab that one sentence, and it'll pull the section of video that sentence was tied to. And yeah, it's pretty incredible. And this is just one app. I mean, there's so many applications and things like that. I am curious though, have you guys looked into like the the voice calling, like there's like appointment setting AI bots that you call in and they like talk to you and they can set appointments and have you looked into that at all?
So, no. To make a long story short, I mean, there've been sort of our platform has a self-service app that the customer can get on the website and schedule if we activated it. We didn't
Okay.
activate it because
Yeah.
it's not like it's just. I mean, there'd have to be a lot of logic in availability.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
you'd have to kind of sync up
what
your calendar
what
so
kind
that
of
when
pre-work needs to
someone
be done.
right.
Yes. So, I mean, right now, even though we may be a little too Neanderthalish in the application, first of all, we don't, we have people who answer the phones, first of all.
Yeah.
So we're
That's
not,
good.
some people, there's a guy in a truck and if they can't answer the phone because they're out in the field. So
Right.
one of the advantages we do, even though it costs us, so we have someone that answers the phone. Depending on what they say, it will determine what's the course of action in terms of, do we need more information? Do we have to go on site to figure out what's necessary? Do we have to put a proposal in place? So all those things are variable.
Right.
So therefore, the notion of scheduling through some kind of expert system or scheduling system, whether it's self-service or otherwise, does make sense for us. I mean, could we look at estimates themselves? Usually estimates take no more than an hour, regardless of how sophisticated the application is. We could do that, but at the moment it's not a major problem for us.
Yeah. So, I guess, is there any sort of, as far as AI, like applications that you guys have looked into other than content, or are just sort of like excited about?
Well, there are a lot of sexy things out there. The question is, I mean, there's a cost involved, not just the procurement of those items. We have to train, integrate, things of that sort. So, I mean, we're constantly looking at things,
Yeah,
not in a formal way, but when I go to the bathroom, I have reading material I can look at
for sure.
what's happening,
Yeah.
not just on a IT basis, but also for tools. What tools will allow greater efficiency,
Right.
and we
Right.
also put demands on our suppliers. So if we have a major supplier and we're trying to predict what our needs are, I mean, they have the volume data for what we order, when we order it, and they could be a more productive collaboration by saying, "Hey, Alan, you use this widget every month for you buy 50 of them. If you bought 6 months of that, you could save money." Well, that would be useful.
Right. Totally. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. There's so many use cases. I feel like. Um.
That's the key.
What is it? Sorry. What is the key?
The key is, as you mentioned, all these different use cases, is to pick a problem that you have or you think you're going to have as a consequence of moving in that direction, and then apply some research and focus so that you can decide or experiment to see whether it would have the desired effect.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I'm excited to see kind of like where things land with that. It seems like, everything's kind of with AI and just sort of technology in general. Things are kind of in the air, and I'm interested to see like where things kind of land, and who's going to be the winners. Like I said, there's just so many different AI applications, and it's like, well, which one do I choose, and which one do I use, and which one is going to be And I feel like, yeah, you can kind of get lost. It can be kind of, I mean, it's cool when you find one that you're like, okay, like maybe I'll just sit with this one. But there's so many that, yeah, it seems like there's probably going to be one that probably, or like it's gonna kind of conglomerate, right? Like it can't just be thousands of different options, like there's got to be some winners. But yeah, I guess we'll see where it does land.
Well, even though they lag a little bit, I mean, usually the local codes change because they find a technology that's proven to make things more safe.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
30 years ago, there were ground fault protection. Now there's got to be ground fault and arc fault.
Hmm.
So as local regions and code writers figure out new ways of making things safer, they'll be mandated in the implementations and to get inspections so that you pass. So at some point there may be the need for smarter, in addition to those technologies, more monitoring capabilities. Like I mentioned,
Right.
the company that deals with arc faults. They're able to monitor it and then when an arc does occur, to be able to alert somebody to look at it, see before
Yeah.
there's a fire. That's pretty
Right.
cool.
That is really cool. Yeah, and I don't really even understand arcs. I kind of wish we could get into that, but I'm kind of running out of time here. So, w- has there been like maybe one investment that you can kind of like one investment that was made in the business or by you, that you just felt like, okay, this had a huge payoff. Like thank God we did this.
Well, I think Kickserve, our practice management system, has has helped us organize the chaos.
Nice. Yeah. When did you guys implement that?
And we, excuse me,
When did you
when
guys
we
implement that?
implemented,
Yeah.
probably like 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
And before that,
Nice.
we would have it would be all paper, except for the financials. We had QuickBooks well before then.
Right. QuickBooks. Yeah. That's been around forever. That's also a very valuable tool, but I think most people know about that.
Well, but like everything else, I mean, software, people maybe use 20% of the capability of the package. I mean, I worked for Hewlett Packard and we sold software and, you know, it's across industries, whether people use all the functions. You don't necessarily need to use all the functions, but there are functions that should be used, and there's just not enough time to become aware and proficient in the use of these technologies.
Right. Do you have I guess maybe for like a kind of a closing question is anything that you would recommend, if someone is trying to vet an electrician or electrical company that they want to work with, what are the things that they should look for?
Well, I think reputation, and good or bad or indifferent, you should not only rely on online um, recommendations of pans or positives, but you should contact some of their customers. The story you'll get is a lot different than sometimes the short response that you see on a Google review or something of that sort. I think obviously you're talking to them, the credibility that's established. There are many paths to Rome. So it's not like every vendor that comes in to look at a job is going to have the same view or experience to guide that view. And then there's the economics. Unfortunately, most people focus on the economics and not this other stuff. The value creation, responsiveness, integrity. I mean, it's an industry that has, some very ethical players and some that are less than ethical.
Sure.
So you always hear stories about, you said it was going to cost $1 to do this job, and now I'm up to $5 because of change. I mean, sometimes that's just a consequence of we weren't expecting to find 3 inches of steel behind the plaster walls. But sometimes it's a question of lowballing and trying to make money, make it up on the change orders.
Right.
But I think, years of experience is also important. If you can withstand the test of time, that's useful.
For sure.
But ultimately, you want to
Yeah.
make sure that they're going to deliver on the goods. So, can you find a customer of theirs that is similar situation? And the rapport that's also developed.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's helpful.
I mean,
Um,
it's even with our own teams. I'll say if you just submit a proposal and just wait for them to respond, the only thing they're going to have to go on is the price. You have to believe in the value that we're creating. We're not designed for everybody. I mean, we have our electricians are more senior as opposed to other people that might have more junior representation. So the question is that costs us more. Our ability to respond, to have someone answer the phone all the time, that increases our loaded cost. Is that something that's of value? I mean, it's a question of having understanding the customer needs and requirements and issues so that you can relay the strengths and reputation towards resolving those issues.
right. Yeah, totally. I think that makes sense. Alan, thank you very much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. I guess,
Well, it's my pleasure. Keep the cards and letters coming in.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um,
Hopefully, it was helpful.
yeah, definitely. Look at that. We went over an hour. Um, so yeah, do you
We
want
just
anyone
started.
to yeah. Do you want anyone to, reach out, or do you want to share social media? I mean, you're definitely free to do that.
Do I want the audience to call us if they have a need? Was that the question?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so it's a nationwide podcast, but if there is anyone that has need in the Albany, area.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to contact us for whatever reason, just exchange ideas, questions. More than willing to help. And those who have lived in the area, hey, we compare notes on restaurants. And
Yeah. Yeah, and I can I'll also put like your contact, I could put like social medias or website, phone number in the like show notes too. So,
well, hopefully you found this helpful.
yeah,
And your
definitely.
audience would.
Yeah,
Well,
well, I know that I
as
have.
many. All right.
All right, Alan. Thanks for being on.
It was my pleasure.
All right, see ya.
Okay, bye.